Have you ever thought you found the perfect guy? The one who seems to be everything you've ever wanted? Now imagine waking up to a nightmare, discovering he has a dark secret that leads to a horrific fate, like being buried in your own backyard by the very person you trusted the most. What exactly went wrong? The questions raised. Well, what started as an ordinary day in Fayette County, Georgia, quickly turned into a scene of horror that would leave an entire community shocked. A devoted father had to make an unthinkable decision, reporting his own son to the authorities. His son, Kenneth Harden Jr., had confessed to killing his wife, Carrie Harden, after a heated argument. What began as a claim of self-defense soon unraveled into something far more sinister when police arrived at the Harden residence. Carrie's body was found partially burned and hastily buried in a shallow grave behind their home. This is the heartbreaking story of Carrie Harden, a loving mother, a caring nurse, and a woman whose life was brutally cut short by the man she trusted most. Kenneth Harden, the man who once promised to love and protect her, became the person she needed protection from. Before diving deeper into this tragedy, we extend our deepest condolences to Carrie's family and friends. This case is a haunting reminder that we must be careful about who we trust, even within our own homes. Fayette County is located in the north-central portion of Georgia, and it's known for its low crime rate. In fact, Fayette County typically boasts one of the lowest violent crime rates in the country, with a rate of 12 compared to the U.S. national average of 2.7. It's the kind of place where families feel safe. But in 2024, something unusual was happening in this quiet county. Within just the first 6 months of the year, there had been 7 homicide cases, most of them domestic. This spike in violence made residents uneasy, and unfortunately, the tragic death of Carrie Harden would add to that growing list of homicides. Carrie Harden was a 39-year-old mother of 2 from St. Louis, Missouri. Everyone who knew Carrie had nothing but kind words for her. She was known for her warm, compassionate nature, traits that made her perfectly suited for her job. Carrie was a registered nurse, associated with the Nurses Earn It medical staffing group. Her dedication to helping others wasn't just a job for her, it was a way of life. She blended her personal and professional life effortlessly, committing herself fully to the well-being of her patients and her family. Carrie wasn't just a nurse, she was a mother. She had 2 wonderful boys whom she loved with all her heart. Every day she poured her energy into raising them, nurturing them with unconditional love, and creating memories she thought would last a lifetime. Carrie was also deeply spiritual, and she made sure to teach her boys about God, showing them how to build their own personal relationships with Him. Her friends described her as a beacon of kindness, always putting others first. But sadly, her giving spirit couldn't shield her from the tragic events that were about to unfold. Carrie was married to Kenneth Harden Jr., a man she had shared her life with for over a decade. They were married on May 13, 2011, and to outsiders, their relationship seemed solid. On social media, Carrie would often post about how much she appreciated her husband. On Father's Day, she would write heartfelt messages calling Kenneth an amazing father and a loving husband. The couple frequently shared videos of family outings and fun moments with their children. Their lives appeared rooted in faith, family, and mutual love. Kenneth, also known as Pastor Ken, was a well-known figure in their community. He had built a reputation as a man of God, preaching in some of the toughest neighborhoods in St. Louis before they moved to Georgia. His ministry had humble beginnings, but his message of hope and transformation resonated with many. Kenneth's sermons often centered on morality, urging people to make positive changes in their lives. It was this shared faith that drew Carrie to Kenneth in the first place. For over 14 years, they built a life together, seemingly anchored by their faith. But as with any marriage, theirs was not without its struggles. Unfortunately, behind the facade of happy family life, their relationship had begun to deteriorate. On August 20th, 2024, started like any other day for the Harden family. But by the end of that day, nothing would ever be the same. Carrie and Kenneth had been arguing since the morning. What began as a normal disagreement spiraled into a full-blown fight that lasted the entire day. By evening, the tension between them had reached its peak, and both had been drinking heavily. Fueled by alcohol and frustration, Kenneth's emotions boiled over. In a fit of rage, Kenneth grabbed a gun and shot Carrie. It was a moment of pure violence, an irreversible act. Panic quickly set in as Kenneth realized what he had done. Instead of calling the authorities or seeking help, he made a decision that would forever change the course of his life. He chose to cover up the crime. In the early hours of the following morning, while his two young sons slept inside the house, Kenneth began his grisly task. He cleaned up the crime scene, trying to erase the evidence of what had occurred. Then he dragged Carrie's lifeless body to the backyard. In a desperate attempt to destroy the evidence, Kenneth set fire to her body. He then hastily buried her in a shallow grave, hoping no one would ever find out. With the crime scene hidden, Kenneth went about his day as if nothing had happened. He dropped his sons off at school and went on with his daily routine, all while knowing what he had done. But guilt must have weighed heavily on him because he reached out to the one person he thought he could trust, his father. Kenneth bought a plane ticket for his father, Kenneth Harden Sr., to fly to Georgia so they could meet in person. When his father arrived, Kenneth took him to a bank. He intended to sign over control of his financial accounts to his father, a move that immediately raised suspicions. Naturally, his father asked what was going on. And that's when Kenneth confessed to killing Carrie the night before, claiming it was in self-defense. His father, understandably shocked and horrified, played along for the moment. He listened to his son, but as soon as he had the opportunity, Kenneth Sr. contacted the authorities. It was a difficult decision, but in the end, he chose to do the right thing. At 11 a.m., Kenneth Sr. made a call to the Fayette County Police, reporting that his son had confessed to killing his wife. The police wasted no time in responding. When officers arrived at the Harden residence, they were immediately struck by the eerie calm of the home. It was a large, well-kept house in a quiet neighborhood. There was nothing about it that indicated the horrors inside. But as they began their investigation, they quickly uncovered evidence of a violent struggle. Despite Kenneth's attempts to clean up the scene, the efforts were incomplete. There were signs of blood loss, and it was clear that something terrible had happened. Investigators brought in cadaver dogs, and it wasn't long before they found Carrie's body in a shallow grave behind the house. To make matters even worse, parts of her body had been burned, adding a horrifying layer of brutality to the crime. The community was shaken to its core as more details of the case emerged. How could something like this happen in their peaceful neighborhood? And how could a man like Kenneth, a devoted father and preacher, be capable of such an act? As investigators searched the property, they made a startling discovery. The Harden home was outfitted with an extensive surveillance system. Cameras were installed all over the house and the surrounding property. It was as if every move was being recorded, raising suspicions that Kenneth might have been watching everything unfold even as the police conducted their investigation. The presence of the cameras added another layer of unease. Investigators had to assume that Kenneth might have been monitoring their every move. Despite this, they pressed forward with the investigation, determined to bring justice for Carrie. Meanwhile, Kenneth was on the run. After his father reported the crime, police quickly launched a manhunt. Using license plate recognition technology and assistance from the Louisiana State Patrol, they were able to track Kenneth to a motel in Covington, Louisiana. A SWAT team was dispatched to arrest him. When the SWAT team arrived, they found Kenneth heavily armed and ready for a confrontation. Later, investigators would learn that he had been contemplating suicide by cop, a tragic and violent way of ending his life. Thankfully, he chose to surrender peacefully, and he was taken into custody without incident. Kenneth was held at the St. Tammany Parish Correctional Center as a fugitive before being extradited back to Georgia. During his questioning, Kenneth fully cooperated with investigators, providing valuable insight into his mindset at the time of the crime. However, his cooperation did little to ease the pain felt by Carrie's family and friends. Kenneth, once seen as a man of God and a devoted father, had become a murderer. The community struggled to reconcile the man they thought they knew with the horrific acts he had committed. The fallout from this tragedy rippled throughout Fayette County, affecting everyone from neighbors to distant acquaintances. The news of Carrie's murder shocked the community to its core. Neighbors who once saw the Hardens as the picture-perfect family now grappled with the reality of violence behind closed doors. Many expressed disbelief that someone they had trusted could be capable of such brutality. Vigils were held in honor of Carrie, bringing together friends, family, and even strangers who wanted to pay their respects. People shared stories about Carrie's kindness, her work as a nurse, and the love she had for her children. At these gatherings, grief and disbelief intermingled as community members tried to comprehend the loss of someone who had touched so many lives. The Fayette County School District also took action, offering counseling services to students who were affected by the tragedy. They recognized the profound impact such violence can have on young minds and made sure support was readily available. Well, as the investigation progressed, the legal process began. Kenneth faced serious charges, including murder and tampering with evidence. The prosecution sought to portray him as a calculated individual who had manipulated the situation to his advantage. They highlighted the fact that Kenneth had attempted to destroy evidence and mislead investigators. Kenneth's defense team tried to argue that he acted in self-defense during a heated altercation. They painted a picture of a man pushed to his limits, claiming that Carrie had threatened him. However, the evidence from the scene and the testimonies from friends and family cast significant doubt on this narrative. Surveillance footage from the house also became crucial evidence. It revealed Kenneth's actions leading up to the incident, providing a timeline that contradicted his claims of self-defense. The prosecution's case relied heavily on this footage, which showed Kenneth's demeanor and actions during the days leading up to Carrie's death. Local news stations reported on the proceedings, and many followed the case closely. The courtroom was filled with people who wanted to witness the proceedings firsthand, including members of Carrie's family, who were determined to see justice served. As the trial unfolded, emotional testimonies were given by Carrie's loved ones. They recounted their memories of her, highlighting the loss they felt and the void left in their lives. Each testimony painted a vivid picture of Carrie as a loving mother, dedicated nurse, and an irreplaceable friend. In a harrowing turn of events out of Fayette County, Georgia, Kenneth Harden Jr. has been apprehended in Louisiana after allegedly murdering his wife, Carrie Harden, and subsequently burning and burying her remains on their property. Following a tip-off, deputies began their investigation, quickly identifying Kenneth as a suspect. It was reported that he attempted to clean the crime scene, which raised red flags for investigators. Sheriff Babb revealed that Kenneth had confided in his father about the horrific events, claiming he shot Carrie in self-defense before taking steps to dispose of her body and flee the state. Kenneth was tracked down to a motel in Covington, Louisiana, where he was arrested without incident by a SWAT team with assistance from the St. Tammany Parish Sheriff's Office and the Louisiana State Patrol. The sheriff described the simultaneous discovery of Carrie's body and Kenneth's arrest as an intense moment for law enforcement. As of late Thursday evening, Kenneth Harden Jr. was being held at the St. Tammany Parish Correctional Center as a fugitive from justice. Fayette County investigators have traveled to Louisiana to conduct further questioning and prepare for his extradition back to Georgia. Sheriff Babb noted that Kenneth is surprisingly cooperative, with investigators expressing disbelief at how forthcoming he has been regarding the details of the case. "I've never had a homicide suspect want to tell us everything," the sheriff mentioned, raising questions about the veracity of Kenneth's claims. The tragedy of this case extends beyond the couple, as the couple's two children, who are in elementary and middle school, now face an uncertain future. They are currently in the care of family members, left to cope with the loss of their mother and the impending legal turmoil surrounding their father. The tragic story of Carrie Harden is a heartbreaking reminder of the dark side of relationships that can exist behind closed doors. It highlights the importance of communication, recognizing warning signs, and the crucial need for support systems in place to help those in distress. Domestic violence is a pervasive issue that affects countless individuals and families across the globe. Carrie's story serves as a wake-up call, urging us to pay attention, speak out, and provide support to those who may be suffering in silence. As we reflect on Carrie's life and the impact of her untimely death, we must remember her not just as a victim, but as a woman who dedicated her life to helping others. Through the continued work of her foundation and the love of her family, Carrie Harden's legacy will endure, inspiring change and encouraging others to stand up against domestic violence. Thank you for joining us today as we uncovered the tragic story of Carrie Harden. If you or someone you know is struggling with domestic violence, please reach out to local resources and support networks. Remember, you are not alone and help is available. This story leaves us with many questions about trust, love, and the unforeseen darkness that can lurk in the most unsuspecting places. Until then, stay safe and keep the conversation alive.